Hi, I'm Lieutenant Nolte, and welcome to this edition of Behind the Badge, your behind-the-scene look at what's going on with the Wichita Police Department. Well, today my guest is Laurel Alkire. She is with the Senior Services Incorporated of Wichita and a good partner of the Wichita Police Department.
Yes.
Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Well, we've kind of been highlighting over the last couple of months groups and agencies that really help the police department. We are not able to do our job as effectively unless we've got partners out in the community. And one of the partners that we have is obviously the Senior Center, or Senior Services, excuse me. Tell us a little bit about what services you provide to the community and give people that maybe aren't familiar with your organization an opportunity to know.
We have been around since 1968. We are a 501c3. We are private, not-for-profit, that serves older adults pretty much in the Wichita city limits. Our mission is to keep them independent and engaged for as long as possible. We have two different groups of programs. One that serves the homebound and the more frail elderly, and that would include Meals on Wheels, where we deliver hot meals 5 days a week to someone 60 and older. We have a roving pantry that does grocery shopping for people 60 and older who maybe can still cook but don't have any way to get to the grocery store. We have an in-home respite program where we provide trained respite workers to relieve a caregiver who is caring for an older adult for 3 hours a week so they can get out and do those kinds of things. And then our more active programs include, we have 4 senior centers, and I know we've done some education pieces with the department for our active seniors. They're 55 and older, so they're a much different group than our homebound. We also have a senior employment program where we help people 55 and older locate employment, which, as you can imagine, is really growing.
Sure, I can only imagine.
And that program does a great job. We also have an information and assistance coordinator that we're just getting ready to bring in that will be collecting all the information that's current. We get a lot of calls from people, anything from I can't read the phone book, can you give me the number to the library, to my wife has Alzheimer's, while I've been at work she's racked up $60,000 in credit card bills, and how do I deal with that? So we'll have somebody that will be there, not just for the seniors, but for their families.
For the families,
to answer questions and to point them to the right resources.
Well, you know, and first of all, it's a phenomenal service you provide. And one of the things that in law enforcement we see is we're a first responder. A lot of times we will respond to a call where, as you said, family needs some support, and it has to do with how they can help an elderly, an older individual family member process through this. And I think that that's one of the things that, from law enforcement's perspective, is a lot of times we see a need to help people realize what services are out there. And I think there are a lot of families out there that don't know what to do, how to get that. So it's a great benefit for us and a tremendous partnership. One of the things that we also see, especially in law enforcement, is just how can we help our senior residents in kind of tough, like when it gets really hot out, or when it maybe there's going to be a particular cold front coming through. How can we help them and support them in the neighborhoods? I know we get a lot of calls to help them. So can you tell us a little bit about how we work together?
Well, I think we work together in a couple of circumstances. One thing that really stands out in my mind are our meals clients. We serve about 900 meals a day, so
that's a lot.
It is a lot. We're going out all over the city of Wichita, and we depend on volunteers to deliver those meals. And our volunteers are very well informed. If somebody doesn't answer the door, that they let the office know, because it's not just a hot meal, it's a safety check, and it's that human contact.
Sure, absolutely.
And so, especially if it's an individual who doesn't have the problems of sometimes not being home. Sometimes you find out they become more mobile, and then they're no longer eligible for the program. But when we know somebody who has a lot of health problems, who maybe is suffering from dementias, doesn't get around, isn't answering the door, that's a real signal to us and an alarm. So we start checking as soon as the volunteers notify us. Some have emergency contacts, some don't. Some don't have any family or any support system whatsoever. If we can't find them through that channel. The next thing we do is call the hospitals, because maybe they've gone to the hospital, and of course in an emergency they didn't think to call us.
Right.
Our very last resort at the end of the day is if we have not still located or contacted that person, then we will call and ask the police for a welfare check.
Right.
We don't like to do it, but we want to make sure that that person is okay.
And I think from a law enforcement standpoint, we appreciate that you guys have done your checks, but our goal is, as is yours, is to make sure that safety and well-being of that person is intact. And so being able to go through that check and balance is tremendously helpful for us. Talk to me a little bit about how can families get involved, and if maybe they're not sure if they can actually use your services, but maybe they need them and they're afraid to. What's the process that a family would talk to you guys about getting involved?
You know, usually they would call our information assistance number, or we get a lot of walk-ins that show up at the Downtown Senior Center where all of our offices are located, and aren't really sure. We always used to joke, people know what they need in childcare, but then when they're parents, this elder care thing is fairly new to a lot of people, or we just haven't planned. You know, none of us wants to think about growing older. We don't want to deal with it. We don't want to think about our parents becoming incapacitated.
Right.
But there are so many resources out there, and we can make it much easier for the family and sort of decrease their worry about that. So they would just need to call us, and if we can't provide the service, we certainly can point them in the right direction to a resource. We don't like to take a call and say, sorry, we can't help you, bye. Because people get a lot of that, and they get very frustrated. We have all the resources there. We know where the providers are, what services might fit that particular situation. It may call for a home visit from a case manager to just kind of see what the situation is, and then making sure we set them up with the right resources. Some will cost something, some are funded and at no charge. So it's just really starting the conversation with us, and we really are the experts. So
well, and I think that's the important thing that we see, is that a lot of times just having a resource where you can have some questions answered can kind of point that person in the right direction, that family in the right direction. What advice would you have for maybe a neighborhood that has 2 or 3 senior citizens that are living there, and maybe some younger families that, you know, obviously in the cycle of life, young families are certainly busy, but they want to look out for some of these. Are there services that maybe a neighborhood could contact you with if they were concerned?
Sure. You know, maybe they know that there's an elderly person next door that doesn't get out much, but the papers start piling up, or the mail starts piling up. You see those kinds of signs that maybe something's going on. If they see that person regularly and they start to notice a change in behavior, or maybe their clothes are dirty, you know, where they used to be, you know, these ladies that have been very immaculate and always made up, and all of a sudden they're not. There may be some problems going on. Just checking in once in a while. I have an older neighbor next door to me that I've known for a long time, and we don't see each other every day, but I'll try to check in with her once or twice a week. How are you doing? Now, she still drives, and she's still pretty mobile, but she has no family in town, and, you know, something could happen. So I think it's real important just to make sure, you know, we're offered to help. You know, we have a lot of people who are mowing an older neighbor's lawn. That's one big need that they have. They can't keep up with that kind of things anymore. But just making sure they're okay. And like I said, if you see signs that something's changed, you definitely need to check into that.
Well, and with it being the holiday time, it's especially just a great opportunity to open a door to introduce, take something over nice, and just open that conversation. So I know from the police department standpoint that we are always very, we want to encourage neighbors to get to know each other, and for just such reasons, because obviously citizens that live together in that neighborhood know what's going on, know who belongs, know if something's bad. And the other thing is, and this is something that we deal with a lot, is there are people that just prey on the elderly in terms of scamming.
Oh, there are.
And creating some, you know, real confusion. And so what would you say to maybe some of those families that are dealing with maybe a caregiver that maybe might be taking advantage of them, or even if it's someone that's going through the neighborhood and is identifying, these victims. What advice do you have for families? I know we work with you and you work, but
Right.
I think sometimes an outside perspective from someone different than law enforcement is helpful.
Well, first of all, anybody that comes to the door, and even my mother who's getting older and I'm not getting around as good, don't give them money, she got a call one time and she gave them her debit card number over the phone, and then she called me and because she felt kind of funny about it. I said, don't ever do that.
Yeah.
So just making sure we keep reminding them. If somebody wants to do something, ask for their information and then call one of your daughters or call us, because we are made aware of a lot of scams that are going on. And they target those elderly people who are lonely, who, oh my gosh, somebody wants to talk to me and they're going to help me and they're going to give me something for nothing. And it's always too good to be true. So just, continually educating them. And we see more in the paper. We see more on the news when big scams are made aware that, and so many of our seniors are watching TV,
Oh, yeah.
especially if they're not getting out. That's pretty much
Absolutely.
what they do. But it's really important to keep reminding them.
Well, and I think from our standpoint, from just law enforcement, people are hesitant to call 911, especially some of our senior citizens, because it's not an emergency and they don't know, and so they become victimized because they don't know, and so that's why it's so important for me and for the police department to let you say, hey,
Right.
call us, and
right.
we can get you the resources. So, well, here's an interesting thing, and we hear about it. I know the police department uses social media a lot, and you brought up the fact that traditional media is where a lot of these folks. Are you seeing that some of our senior citizens are using social media?
They are. That's a good question. They say that the older population is the fastest growing user of Facebook and some of those kind of things. One thing we do at the senior centers, which by the way is not just crochet and bingo anymore, it's all kinds of health prevention and exercise, a lot of computer classes, and we do have a lot of seniors that want to learn how to just use email to keep in touch with family, how to get on Facebook to reconnect with people from their past. So yeah, we are seeing more. It's been for a while, it's been the kids we've been reaching through social media that again may be out there looking for resources, but we are seeing more and more seniors getting on that bandwagon.
Well, and with that, we'll make sure that we put in a plug to make sure that they like the Wichita Police Department's Facebook page and our Twitter page, because we'll keep them informed and come directly to the source.
That's great.
Well, I'll tell you, Laura, I appreciate you coming here and talking to us. You guys have been an invaluable partner for us, and so thanks for coming and sharing some of what you all do for the community.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and we're just always excited to get the word out, to let people know we're here, and that we can make aging a wonderful part of life.
Absolutely.
That there is help out there, so thank you.
You bet.
Okay.
Well, thanks for joining us on this edition of Behind the Badge. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.